But the problem with, the Conor McGregor, he used to be on the right track.
Right.
He used to do the right thing before. But this is just my theory. But when he fought Mayweather, I think it was a really big mistake. I don't think he has ever been the same after that.
I suppose it just took over him. He built a lot of bulk, felt that that's how now he has the most power. But it's crazy how opposite it is to what he was talking about even in the past, like the precision pitch power and timing pitch speed. It's like complete opposite of what he was.
All of these things become in your childhood when you're facing like pain and trauma you cannot face. So you build this like alter ego to cope with the pain and cope with the trauma. And what people don't realize is that like the ego training that maybe grows your bicep and maybe like makes you look like this, and maybe like when you get to lift higher and higher amounts, it doesn't necessarily transfer to athleticism at all. Like the size of your muscle doesn't necessarily mean anything, and likewise, how much you lift doesn't necessarily mean anything in your field of sport. And what we have seen, me and Eero, is that like some of the big stars, like for example Conor McGregor, like for the past few years he has like really like bulked up and he's like looking like the biggest and strongest ever. But is he? Because in the past few fights he has been really stiff and he no longer has the same elasticity, same, the movement capabilities as he had when he was just a few years younger. So yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I was watching, some of his clips, training clips, and also the fighting, and it's such a striking difference there. Of course, he used to train with like the Ido Portal and do a lot of the movement stuff and this kind of stuff, and he had that like a karate way of like back and forth going. And I think even today and even then he is like a master of like boxing. He has like amazing striking and boxing skills. But I don't know like what changed there, because if you look at the fight with the fights with Dustin, he is much more like stationary. He has like this kind of more traditional guard, like I don't know what, because it works so well for him to be like more open, to have the karate style, everything. So it feels like maybe it is a part of his general training that he's doing now, because he's doing like heavy presses, he's doing like weighted pull-ups,
back squats.
He's like doing all of this such basic exercise, and it looks like he's really emphasizing also the amount of weight in this. So it's interesting that he chose this, because for me also, I have a time when I was doing more like, I wasn't, focusing on heavy weightlifting, but I was doing more like a training to build muscle size in my body last year, actually, for a good period of time. And then I changed my approach. I went to train. Now I'm, for example, training every single week, kickboxing and boxing and, striking. And I noticed like I reduced now my muscle building workouts. I reduced them greatly because I really wanted to get better at the striking. And I noticed that, I need to do less this type of pumping training. It was beneficial in that sense. You don't need to leave all your strength training away, but for a professional trainer like or athlete like Conor McGregor to make this kind of change and to focus on this type of lifting that makes you stiffer is so surprising, because he out of anyone should know, what it does to his body. But the thing is that what you've also talked about sometimes is that athletes really don't always even know what is the best way to train. Like some athletes are like completely
like most athletes and most athletes don't even understand their body at all. Like dancers and athletes, because we have met many, like they have no idea of anything what's going on in the body. They're just, so naturally talented in, in the sport or art, but they don't necessarily understand anything about like exercise.
Yeah, that's the only way that it makes sense for some of these athletes to make this kind of change in the training. They just simply don't really understand.
But the problem with, the Conor McGregor, he used to be on the right track.
Right.
He used to do the right thing before. But this is just my theory. But what happened is that when he fought Mayweather back in the many years ago, I think it was a really big mistake for him. And I don't think he has ever been the same after that. And the same with maybe Nate Diaz's fight as well. When he lost the first one, I think, because he was no longer the same free Conor, I think, after that. So, and nowadays he's like completely out of his mind, at least his public persona. So it's all about ego. It's all about being like having the biggest muscles and being the toughest guys. And maybe that's why he fought like the Dustin Poirier like that, because he thinks like, I'm like the tough guy, I'm just gonna walk him down and just like I'm so fast, so I'm gonna just just block or like evade the strikes and then just smash him down because I'm so strong, I'm so powerful. So like he has ego. Everything he does is ego nowadays. Yeah. Like his training is ego. His talk is ego, his lifestyle is ego, everything's ego, and the ego has destroyed him many times already because these other guys, they don't have the same ego, and that's why they can approach the fight game, MMA properly, and they can fight properly as well because they don't have to like try to be this whatever. They just want to get the job done. They want to finish the guy, and they do it.
Yeah, some people say like that Conor has this kind of like yes mans surrounding him, so maybe he's not getting like the realistic view of his abilities really, and even probably maybe his sparring partners or something in the training or something, they maybe he's able to dominate like in training. He never gets into the situation where he is the weaker side. Somehow it feels like that maybe because
exactly, because in martial arts you cannot always be the hammer. You also have to be the nail. Otherwise, you never grow properly and you never develop yourself properly. So I think that's one of the problems for sure.
Yeah, I think that becomes an issue with some like, even in like Kung Fu, if you're like some kind of master or something like really high level, or same MMA martial arts. Because if you raise to a certain level, you're a champion or something, then you're like, well, you can't anymore lose, or no one can be better than you in the practice, and then you need to try to maintain this higher
phase.
Like this image that you are always on top. But I have not been on that level, so it's hard to really talk about it. But at least talking about from the level where I am, training now, getting your sort of, so to say, ass kicked and getting dominated into practice is good, it's valuable, it's great. It actually toughens you. Sometimes it's just great hardening, and you are actually growing through that. It's not like you stay there where you're getting beaten. You actually grow from that, onward. But it teaches you a lot of valuable stuff. So you can protect yourself in these practices from the reality, because you're gonna face that reality if you go to the actual fight in the cage. Like maybe this happened as well to Conor then.
Yeah, because inside the cage, inside the fight, like
there are no
like
like
the ego is not your friend anymore. Yeah. Like what is your view of yourself and how tough you think it is? Like it doesn't matter. It will be proven and it will be discovered inside the cage or inside the fight. So that's why the ego is dangerous, because you can think your like skill level is here when in reality it can be here, and that can be lethal like in any combat scenario, because you will take risks and you will do things you normally wouldn't do.
Right. And it's funny that because Conor was known for his fluid movement. He was like really known for that. Like it's even
And
crazy.
he also talked about a lot about
Yeah.
all the foot movement, and he did all the animal movements and all this shoulder stuff.
Yeah, and how the others were like stuck in the mud. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, even thinking about that, why he made the change. But yeah, the only rational explanation is really following that ego when it comes to that, because yes, the bigger muscles, they give you that feeling, and I mean, he's always had this. He's always been like kind of like this way, but I suppose it just took over him. He built a lot of bulk, felt that that's how now he has the most power. But it's crazy how opposite it is to what he was talking about even in the past, like the precision pitch power and timing pitch speed. It's like complete opposite of what he was or represented.
Yeah, and I think after Nate Diaz and Mayweather, he has never been the same, because if you study like psychology and different personality disorders and stuff, like all and these echo structures and super ego and everything, all of these things become when in your childhood, when you when you're facing like pain and trauma, you cannot face. So you build this like alter ego to cope with the pain and cope with the trauma. And it can happen even when you're adult, like PTSD. Like, we don't know, maybe Conor McGregor is suffering from really, really bad PTSD. Like if you look at his Instagram and his behavior, like he has like mental ill issues, like real ones. Like his mental health can be like rock bottom, Like he can be like completely,
You can't really look at his fighting performance isolated from his personal life, and the stuff that he's doing, like drinking, and I don't know if he's using some drugs or something, but it's not a pretty
he has gone, because what people don't know, like he has bulked up a lot, like he looks like massive, but like if you train for 10 years, of course you can get bigger if you change your diet and you start training in the muscle building way. But you don't suddenly, after 10 years of, doing pro high level sports, you don't suddenly, get like 10 kilos or 5 kilos of muscle like this. Like,
right.
you have to be on something else,
Yeah, that's a good point actually, because he gained it he was, I suppose he gained it during the time he was now recovering from the broken, it was shin bone or ankle. I'm not sure which part he actually broke, but so maybe that's also funny, because he was recovering from that, and during that time he's now maybe focused more on the muscle building. But he clearly wants to now make a return and go to the fighting. And the recent clips that he showed, where he was doing the pads, of course it's like it.
Power training.
Yeah, it looks powerful, and that maybe there's a purpose, but thinking about, I don't know, judging it based on like how good he is, that he's a professional athlete, maybe it could have been a bit more sharper or something, but who knows? I'm not sure what he went through during the surgery and recovery process, so maybe that also slows him down a bit, because he haven't been able to just even properly do any sort of boxing, shadow boxing. Yeah,
but it will be interesting to see how he comes out. Of course, he can come better than, maybe not better than before, but he's still one of the highest level martial artists. Like he's maybe not top 10, but he's top 50 for sure. And everyone in top 50 is really, really good, and they're gonna beat maybe almost anyone. So of course, it will be interesting to see how he fights Charles Oliveira or the other guys, but
that's the thing. Like you always, when you see him, you expect maybe there's some change, maybe he's made some improvements here or there. So you never really know. We've seen a lot of great stuff in MMA, and people come out from all kinds of losing streaks and start to make progress again. So it will definitely be interesting to see how it's gonna do in the future.